you bring that cop over here?
Yeah, why?
Idiot!
That's a bit harsh, what we're doing here.
I've decided for no reason at all to completely change the format, so this week we're going to act out the clips.
No, I'm sorry. We're not doing any improvisation in this episode. Someone needs to maintain some sort of structure in this podcast.
Fine, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Welcome to episode 36 of the Columbo podcast, where we two have been pondering that very question.
Why they brought the idiot cop over?
Yeah, normally I would never dare to give Columbo, the legendary Columbo, that title, but on this occasion, Ian, I wish the idiotic cop had not been brought over here.
Or at least they hadn't made Columbo into an idiotic cop.
Not only idiotic, annoying, obnoxious, irritating. What do you think I think of this episode?
I think you've got a generally positive opinion.
What about your general opinion of it?
Okay, well my first instinct after watching the episode was that wasn't as bad as everybody said it was going to be. But I suspect as we get into the detail, we may find more to niggle on.
It's a stinker. It's horrible, it's disgusting, I'd like to burn it with fire.
If it wasn't called Columbo, would you like it?
No, maybe. I hate it because of what it's, what they've done to Columbo. If this was just maybe not. Although, in saying that, I wouldn't be very impressed with a lot of the deductions, the plot, the gotchas. I wouldn't be overly impressed with that at all when we'll talk about that. But it wouldn't irritate me. I wouldn't hate it. I despise this because of what they've done to our beloved detective. And it's not only that, Ian. I'm sorry, I'm ranting here, but let me continue. I know you're trying to get in. It's been bookended by two excellent episodes. You've not seen the next one yet, but you've seen obviously you watched last week's Now You See Him, and we've got one of my favourites, Fade Into Murder, next week. Both very highly regarded episodes with this turd in the middle.
That's quite a harsh assessment, I would say.
No, if it wasn't for the fact this is a clean podcast, my language would be far more befitting of the disaster that this episode is. This horrible annoyance.
But to be fair, the IMDb rating for this episode is right in your wheelhouse. You're normally up with 6.9s is a good one for you.
Normally that's too high, but not for Columbo. I love a good 5.5, a 5.6 in IMDb. I've often thought of doing a podcast just on movies that are 5.6 in IMDb. I do love trashy B movies and that type of stuff. But in this genre, and with regards to Columbo, I expect the high standards that we've already seen to be maintained, and they're not in this episode. It's terrible.
Well, we've had other bad episodes that you haven't been quite this outraged about.
This episode makes me want to go and watch Dagger of the Mind. Just Dagger of the Mind by comparison is a classic. Dagger of the Mind by comparison is Any Old Port in a Storm.
You think?
Yeah, or Murder by the Book. It's a joy to watch that.
Would you have enjoyed this one better if Columbo was taking photos of the boats?
Listen, yeah, I would have actually. Even if he was standing up, if he wasn't messing about, if he wasn't being arrogant, if he wasn't...
Well, we'll get to the specifics as we go through this.
Oh, yeah, we will. Apologies, everyone, for this rant, but it's atrocious. And I hardly watched this episode, like many people, because of how bad it is. So my ire has been inflamed by having...
Your dander is up.
My dander is... Not my gander, is what I sometimes... My dander is well and truly hoisted. It's terrible. But listen, if you do like it, apologies. I'm sure there's people out there who think,
6.9 is not bad. There must be plenty of folk who do enjoy it.
They're only getting that because it's Columbo.
You think?
They're giving it that sort of sympathy. I like Columbo. I can't rate it how I really feel. Might get in there and give it a 1 rating just for the... But then I wouldn't want to bring the overall Columbo score down, so that's why people don't do it probably.
Maybe. Or maybe folk genuinely like this episode.
There might be. There are genuinely people who voted for Hitler.
I'm not sure it's a fair comparison.
But listen, because people like it, there are people who like it and enjoy it. Doesn't mean anything. They're wrong.
Well,
anyway,
shall I give you my summary and we can crack on with the actual story?
Go for it.
In Last Salute to the Commodore, both viewers and Columbo are thrown off guard when the body of Otis Swanson, otherwise known as the Commodore, is disposed of by his son-in-law Charles Clay, despite the younger man having played no part in any murder. When Clay himself is later killed, it becomes apparent that one person is responsible for both deaths, and focus has been on the wrong man all along. When the suspects assemble for a dramatic conclusion, the lieutenant thinks he has his culprit. But could there be a further break from tradition and another unexpected twist still to come?
Thanks, Ian. That was preferable to watching what my eyes had to take in recently. And I'm sorry, I know you've tried to calm me down here, but I'm going to go through a few things first, okay? So, I think that it's only fair to perhaps even look at the positives of this episode, because we won't, as we go through this, I'm sorry, Ian, you might have different views and opinions here, but I'll probably be coming back to these points anyway, how bad that is. So, I'd like to cover what I think are the very few good points first.
Okay.
And see if you agree with me.
Okay.
Wilfrid Hyde-White, who we had met previously, and Dagger of the Mind.
Now, you say that, but he is the one common link between your two least favourite episodes. Is it just the fact that he rises above a very low level of...
No, it could be. No, I just love his performance. I like his... I think I used the word earlier today with you. He's got a very sort of snide, sneering... he's sort of mocking, condescending. He laughs when he says things. He doesn't really care. And I thought we'll get to his... That's my favourite scene with him in it in this episode. But yeah, no, I just enjoy watching him. Robert Vaughn was fine.
Yeah, he was certainly a different character from the one he played in Troubled Waters, despite the continued nautical theme.
Yes. The setting, well, I have issues with the setting as well, but it looked nice. It was fairly well.
Yeah, they did their best to complicate it with the way they described it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And if it was a better episode, I would invest more time trying to work out what was the islands and all that sort of stuff.
The island doesn't seem to have been an island.
No, I can't even. It just irritates me. And I'm not sure about this one, but I think I quite like Diane Baker as Joanne. I reckon some people will think she overplayed it, and I can see why. And I'm on the sort of borderline.
Yeah.
But I think I quite enjoyed her performance.
But you're not sure.
I'll give it the benefit. I need to give some positives to this episode, and I think that I do enjoy this. She played the sort of drunken, the person sort of always on the edge of a breakdown. Yeah,
I quite like the new policeman that showed up driving the car.
Duggan?
No, the one that dropped him off.
The black guy?
Yes.
Don't get me started in this. This is another thing. You're doing this deliberately. Yeah. They've got far too many characters, and they add more. None of them are required, but they add in more. So, as you said, they've got a guy another character who's added just to drop someone off.
Yeah.
Strip it back, please. There's too many characters.
I've got a theory about this.
Go for it.
My theory is that when they were writing this, they didn't know if Peter Falk was coming back for another series, and they liked the fellow Duggan, and they wanted to see if he would work as a potential lead if they continued the show without Falk.
Well, that's a possible scenario, and when we discussed the nickname, etc., it may support and back up your belief. One last thing before we
one more thing
before we crack on. It's just I get a feeling, and the reason why I'm angry is that it's frustrating. To use a ridiculous metaphor, you've got a restaurant. Okay, now most restaurants, like TV shows, they start if they're lucky enough to start up, they fail. Okay, most businesses.
Sure.
You find an audience, you find a customer, and they like what you're doing. They buy into it, and over a number of years, become very successful. No one would simply decide to change the menu overnight or offer a different service.
I think your metaphor fails because a lot of people do change their menu, and I think people who didn't change their menu would be criticised for not trying new things or being stuck in the past. Not
so drastically. I will say yes, you bit by bit you can try new, and Columbo does. We've talked about this many times.
Yep.
Little things get thrown in, and often you say they don't work, but they've tried to do so much here. This isn't just adding a new meal to the menu. This is going from Italian to Chinese overnight and saying we're giving you something different, but your customers, want Italian.
That's a better metaphor.
And the only time a show can do this, or does do this, is when we talk about jumping sharks, etc., is when the show is on the wane, and they're trying something desperately to revive the show, but Columbo did not need that at this point.
I think if Columbo had tried out his new jacket in this episode, you wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as you did last week.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't have. they've been kicked in that ocean, that
Yeah.
sea or jetty, whatever. Oh, right. So we start off where
You've got folk in a boat. It's not entirely clear that you've got first of all, you've got one guy in a boat singing a wee ditty. It's called Titanic, and it sails off.
yeah, it's very prophetic. The name this show is this episode is sinking like the Titanic.
It's certainly going to hit some choppy waters.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we then kind of have a look at another boat after the credits are rolling.
Yeah,
And it's full of people.
it is. But is it not? It's the same boat, is it not?
Is it? I
Yeah.
thought it was a different boat.
Either way, we've got this old guy who we find out is a chap called Swanny, and he's got these other party guests
Yeah.
in this boat, and they all seem to be having a good time. They appear to be having a drink and having a laugh, and it transpires that they are customers of the Commodore's
It
business.
would make a lot more sense if it was the same boat. That wasn't made clear, I don't know. Or maybe I'm being stupid.
No, lots of things in terms of location and boats weren't really clear unless you dug into it. in this
Because the first
episode.
boat they showed didn't look big enough to have that big
Yeah.
room in it. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, a crotchety old man comes in and he gets taunted by shouts of "Hail to the Commodore."
Yeah, we find out this old man is in fact the nephew of the titular Commodore.
Right.
Yeah, the Commodore's Otis Swanson, and this is Swanny, his nephew.
Okay.
Yep. And we find out the Commodore apparently is more at home on the ocean, on
Yep.
the sea, than he is
Yes, and he's coming on board.
Yeah.
He's the one that gets the "Hail to the Commodore" shout. It's the actual Commodore that gets the
Yes.
shout.
He reluctantly comes on board and is greeted by another older man in a more formal three-piece suit. Now, he is Kittering,
Kittering.
the lawyer of the
Yes,
family lawyer.
that's his family lawyer.
Yeah. And we understand that the Commodore has no time for all these.
Yeah, well, what he
Relatives.
says is, let's get this damn thing over
Yeah.
with.
So from there, he is taken, and the guests are taken to the yacht club, sort of bar restaurant.
Yeah, again, they're suddenly on dry land. It's not made clear how or why they've gone there, but there appears to be some kind of a celebration. I think there's a magazine there taking photographs.
There is, and it's in honour of the Commodore, who has been in business for 30 years. He's a naval architect. He designs boats. I
Yeah.
think that's it.
His daughter comes over for a photo, and it turns out she's married to Robert Vaughn's character.
Yes, Charles Clay.
Vaughn, of course, was a killer in his previous appearance.
He was.
It's unusual for someone to be a killer and then come back and not be a killer, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've done this deliberately. Because you're meant to... This is a red herring, isn't it? You're meant to assume that...
They probably all thought they were very clever.
oh, very clever. Too clever for their own... By half, for their own good.
Too clever by half for their own good.
Yes, that's the one. So...
Yeah, Charlie chases everyone out the lounge on Otis's request.
Yeah, we get some pictures, and again, the Commodore is being very inhospitable. He is in no mood to party. He just wants to be left alone. Very
Yeah.
old school. Yeah.
And as we've seen in the past, they have a inappropriate discussion about business in the middle of something else happening.
Yeah. Explain.
Well, Charlie chases all the guests out, so it's just him and his wife and her father that are left.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a dispute on the nature of the business, because he's not happy that Charlie's changed things around.
Mm-hmm.
But his daughter points out that business has doubled.
Yeah.
But he also points out that losses have doubled.
And
And
Charlie's...
the sponger's been attacked.
Yeah. Charlie says, oh, that's what we need to do for, it's tax
Investment.
write-offs, etc. And, yeah, as you say, Joanne defends him. And the father, the Commodore, implies, not for the first time in this episode, that Joanne has a fairly hefty drink problem.
Yeah.
In fact, throughout this entire episode, she's drunk.
Yeah, there's not a scene.
Yeah.
Well, there might be one.
Yeah. So the Commodore gets up to leave. He's asked to mingle with the clients, but he says, nope, having none of it. She pleads with him because he's the guest of honour. He doesn't care. And as you say, he's enraged. He calls them all freeloaders. He says they've all at some point or other had their hands in the till.
Yeah, he's just generally unhappy, I think.
Yep. And I think he calls Joanne a fool for marrying Charles.
Yeah, he says, my daughter was a fool because she married you to Charles, and he says there's only one decent man here.
Yeah. I think we've actually got a clip of this.
Some of this exchange, yeah.
I can remember over the years when we gave a party, an annual party for all our own workers. Not where all those sponges out there. Plus maybe a few executive types.
Well, those are some of our finest customers. I appreciate you joining me and talking with a few of them.
No. I never did like parties. I'm going back home, do some work on my boat.
Daddy, you can't. There are important people waiting for you in there.
Listen, Joanna, will you stop making
You stop making a fool of yourself! Otis, I just need you for a short appearance. Show some unity. Squelch those rumors about trouble within the company.
Well, it's my company and I don't give a damn. My daughter was a fool because she married you, Charles, and I was a fool for letting you run things so long. Come on, don't be so shocked and innocent. You all had your hands in the till one way or another. There's only one decent man here. Here, take us home.
Not a happy chappy.
Well, I don't know. He seemed kind of go one way or the other.
What do you think of his character? Did you think he was in the right? Do you think he's
We don't know.
entitled to... Well, we don't know.
We
do
don't get enough information. We don't know whether he's just a grump
Yeah.
or whether he's got a legitimate complaint.
Yeah. You're right. It's not fleshed out. There's no reason to sort of feel sorry or glad that he is bumped off.
No, and we also know from what happens later on that he's under a new influence. So whether that's a negative influence, we don't know either.
Yes. On that, Joanne implies, as he leaves, you see a younger girl that
Yeah.
we come to know as Lisa. She follows him out. But Joanne implies that Charles Clay, her husband, may be having an affair with him. I think she says, is that you're, the Wonder Woman from The Office or something? I think she's implying that all things aren't well with them.
Right.
Did you recognise the Commodore?
Well, eventually.
Eventually.
I
He
did.
is, who is he?
He was in Swan Song.
He was. He played Pangborn.
Everybody's favourite air crash investigator.
Yeah. At the time, I remember we chatted about how we'd like to have seen perhaps Columbo and Pangborn team up again.
Yeah, we enjoyed his performance and we thought he was a good character.
Mm-hmm. We did. I'd like to have seen Pangborn, not in this episode.
No. Well, it might be a better episode if it had Pangborn and a completely different story.
Just on this, because I've just noticed this, and I might be totally reading too much into it. But as I was typing some notes out here, I typed out his name, which is Swanson, and beside it, I wrote the episode that he was previously in, which was Swan Song. I wonder if that's a coincidence
Have to
or
get ideas from somewhere, don't they?
yeah, maybe that's where they got the surname from.
It could be.
Anyhow,
We get an atmospheric shot next. The camera pans across the marina to a window.
and we see Clay looking sort of furtively out of the window before wiping down a wooden pole.
Yeah, it's not clear what it is, but he tidies the room up. It looks like he's clearing up after a murder.
Yeah, we're in the Commodore's home, his house.
We don't know that, but yes.
Yeah. He then finds lying on the floor, a brooch, which he picks up and he puts in his pocket.
Yeah, and then moments later we realise there's a body there and he's clearing around it.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial note was covering for his wife.
Yeah, he takes the keys from the body as well. Was that what you were thinking?
Yep.
So you immediately... but you see...
See, I'd kind of been tipped off that the person you think isn't the killer, so I don't know how a person who didn't know that would experience this.
Be honest with yourself. I mean, you wouldn't have necessarily thought this guy was... Because it's never happened like that in Columbo before.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you would
But then you didn't see the murder.
Well, there's been cases where we haven't seen the murder before in Columbo.
Yeah.
Uh,
But there's never been cases where you haven't seen the murder and they haven't told you what happened.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we are where we are.
Yeah. Anyway, it becomes apparent the body is Otis and
He's dead.
he's dead. Charlie, I think the keys he takes out his pocket
Yes.
and then he combs does he comb his hair on his way out?
Probably.
Trying to look a bit more calm, but there's somebody at the door.
Yes, it's Wayne, the manager of the
Yes,
boatyard.
I think, yeah, anonymous suspect number 3.
Yeah. So he's in a bit of a situation here because he's got this body which he's trying to dispose of. Wayne comes to the door. He's got something...
Self-steering vein.
Yes. Piece of equipment he wants to give to the Commodore. Yes. Clay takes the vein, goes back inside, pretends he's talking to the Commodore, comes back out,
With the
says...
response, yep.
Oh, he says thanks, I'll see you tomorrow, he's tired. And both Clay and Wayne leave together.
Yes.
They leave together in different cars. Clay stops and talks to the security guard.
Yeah.
And he's doing this to establish...
The time he left.
Which was 12:45.
I didn't write it down, it didn't really matter, did it? But we've seen that before in playback, haven't we?
Yes.
I criticised it then, and I was told people do this.
Yeah. But Columbo makes a point later on that why is he asking a guard with a cheap watch what the time is when he owns a perfectly good watch himself?
It's a good point, well made.
Mm-hmm. So we go to the marina.
Yeah, he's boarding a boat called the Mojo.
This is, again, one of the things I get confused, and it's not clear whose boat it is and where he's going. Is he on and off boats, and it's in the dark? He's in his boat, the Mojo, and he swims, I think, to the Commodore's yacht, which he takes out to sea whilst dressed as the Commodore himself.
Yes.
And the Coast Guard sees him and tells him to put on some running lights.
Yeah.
I think he's left these off deliberately so that the Coast Guard has to see him and interact. Which is quite chancy. Because the Coast Guard may be on very good terms with this guy, may ask him a question or have some sort of chat with him, and or may just identify this as a different person.
He's wearing his hat. How could he be identified as a different person?
We then see Clay dump the body at sea, and then he swims back.
It's a clearly moronic manoeuvre.
Why?
Because the body's already dead. It won't breathe under the water.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the clues, isn't it?
But surely anybody would know that.
But you could see this is another weakness in the clue. Perhaps you could bang your head and maybe stumble around for a while and be dead, and then sort of, I don't know.
I don't think it's that weak.
Okay. No, I'll give you that. That's fine. So he swims back anyway, and then we go to...
he's left the boat sailing off by itself.
So it's the next morning, it's Columbo's introduction.
This is him showing up.
Yep, and he immediately annoys me.
It's good old Columbo, finally here to save the episode. Actually, to this point, the episode's fine because we don't know it's going to take that.
It's not fine because... Yeah, if you assume that
Clay's the killer,
then yeah, it could be salvaged.
Yep.
Like a wreck.
Sure.
A shipwreck.
You don't think it's fine then?
No. Yes, this is Columbo's introduction. There's some whimsical music which I think from now on sets the tone of the episode. And Joanne answers the door to Columbo, and he sort of turns around with this annoying expression on his face, as if he's here to wrap up this case and he knows who the killer is immediately.
Yeah, he announces that Otis Swanson's boat's been found, but he wasn't on it and nobody knows where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Columbo's going to investigate it, and he asks Charles to come with him, and then does a weird point.
Not for the first time does he do a weird physical things in this episode.
Yeah.
I think that he points you directly at Clay.
Yeah.
And this is him over-egging it.
I don't know what he's doing here. And then he asks a highly inappropriate question. Now, he's done this before.
Yep.
But this is a particularly egregious example.
Mm-hmm. Firstly, I'll give him a pass on this, but I mean, it's a missing person, it's not homicide yet.
Yeah, so why is he there?
Why is he there? But we'll give him that. But, okay, so what has happened here, it's obvious, is that they're trying to force the viewer into believing that Clay is the killer. So you've got Columbo turning up and pointing, and you're thinking, good old Columbo knows who it's... But
is that meant to be a subtle sign?
Yeah, there's no reason for him to do this, but he's so full of himself. It annoys me in this episode. He points right at him, and it's again to deceive the viewer, which is...
Yeah. And it's like, I know your much-loved father is missing, but where's the beach? I want to have a look.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? It's inappropriate.
It's not even like he's going to the beach to investigate something. It's just, I want to see what the beach is like.
Yeah. I've got here, a very inappropriate attitude for a cop at this point.
Yeah. We've got Bruce Kirby back again.
Yeah, well, firstly, Clay agrees to join him at the marina, but he shuts the door in his face straight away. And Columbo has this weird expression and orders, as you say, Bruce Kirby...
Set the roof down in his car.
Why? He's never done this before. The nice Columbo, the Columbo we all love, would try himself. He may ask for help. He may say something along the lines of, it's been years since I've had this down, can you... and he struggles with it. But he sort of snaps his fingers and tells his subordinate, get the roof down.
Do it.
Yeah, that's not nice.
No. More police show up.
Yeah, as you said. So we've got all these other cops showing up to introduce a cop who we don't need in it. Kramer, we've now got 2 sidekicks in this episode.
Yeah, why do we need Kramer if we're getting Mac?
We don't need any of them. We don't want any of them. But these cops turn up. We were introduced to another cop, as you mentioned earlier, who introduces Mac, and Columbo sort of walks between them asking, whispering and mumbling, who is this new cop? Who is this Mac? And it's Theodore Mac Ablinski. Ablinski, yeah. And Columbo asks him, what did he ask him?
I can't remember.
Do you have any Irish in you? You try to discover
Or Scotch.
Or Scotch, yeah.
Which is an offensive term in itself.
Oh, I'm hugely offended.
Well, I would be offended if anyone used it for about me.
Did you?
Yeah.
Far too sensitive, Ian.
It's not a word about people, it's about whiskey.
Oh, be quiet.
Scots or Scottish is fine.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm in a bad mood. As you can tell, I'm not having any of you.
But you're fine with being called Scotch.
Don't care.
That's the worst thing about the episode for me.
Shut up, your joke. Now, what do we have here?
We go back to the Clay home. Joanna knows that Charles didn't sleep in his bed.
Yeah.
And she says, if you didn't put me to bed last night, who did?
Mm-hmm. And then she suggests that perhaps the boat was stolen. But it wasn't.
She's grasping at straws, I think.
So we go back out to the house front.
Yep.
And Columbo, who has been messing around the back looking at the view, is shouted around the front and he runs through. And he's very physical in this episode. Does quite a lot of running and jumping.
Yeah,
moving,
a bit like
shouting.
Milo Janice episode, he had to sprint around the beach.
Yeah, but that was acceptable. He was trying to keep up with someone.
Yeah, he looks very sceptical when he's told that Mac's going to be assisting him.
Yeah.
And then you get this bizarre slapstick scene where they all squeeze into the car.
Yeah, before that he talks nonsense about the ocean being a lot of water and asks directions to Japan.
I think I tuned that bit out.
Did you? Yeah. I'm thinking, shut up. Get on with it. Do your job properly here, man.
Oh no, I do remember that. Yes, what's over there?
Yeah.
I think that's a normal thing that folk would ask if they were at a new bit of coastline. But then he lives in California.
Yeah.
So
what direction is Japan? Be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd be saying.
I mean, I've done it myself, saying, is that the way to Ireland?
Yeah. My father-in-law is possibly dead. Stop asking ridiculous questions.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, this horrible slapstick where he gets them all in his car. They've got perfectly good cars there. And
puts one in the back and three in the front.
Yeah, why would you do that? There's room for another person in the back.
Now, see, I thought maybe this is a thing he wants to get some information here from Clay, and he does. He looks at his watch, and then he looks at Clay's watch.
Yeah, but you don't need to do that.
But this was a weird way to do it.
Yeah. And Matt can't drive properly. He's not used to the Columbo's car, so he tells him to spin round the little sort of roundabout
How do you work
type
the gears?
thing.
Let's go into a few. And he's waving his arm around in the air.
He sort of sits up as if he's on a horse, and he's giving it charge, take it round a few times, and he points him off in the right direction. Garbage.
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry. It's just...
And then he shouts, hit the highway.
Yeah. Right.
Weird.
So we get back to the marina with them.
Yeah, Columbo's learning about the different types of boat,
Yeah.
which is interesting because I think that's a wee nod back to Troubled Waters when he didn't know the difference between a boat and a ship.
Yes. Well spotted.
With Robert Vaughn at that point as well.
Clay says that when he last saw the Commodore, he was healthy.
Yep.
When he and Wayne, and I think you mentioned Wayne to bring him into it, he and Wayne left last night.
Yeah, we also learned that the boat's a yawl, interestingly. But the guard comes over.
Well, before that, see, it's... Apologies for keeping back to these little things, because it's the little things that he does and he says and he looks that annoy me in this episode. He immediately tries to be mysterious when he mentions that he is from Homicide. And it's as if he already knows it's a murder and it's Clay that's committed it. If you watch this again, there are all these little things that he does that are out of character.
Yeah.
Columbo asks Kramer for a light. And...
Is this where we get the little discussion where... No, that's the next scene. You've skipped over the guard. The guard says he didn't see the boat leave. And Clay says that the Coast Guard will have seen it. And then there's a weird cut. And then Clay and Kramer are with Columbo in the boat.
Yeah. And again, this is another example. They bring down 2 Coast Guards onto the boat.
Yes, this is the next thought. This is where we get this scene with the cigar.
Yeah.
Where Columbo is persuaded not to smoke because he's told Kramer to watch him for it. And then instead of smoking, he hums a tune. Mm-hmm. As if that's his sort of tick.
Yeah. I mean, this is a sort of callback to Blueprint for Murder, the final episode in season 1.
Then, yeah.
And at the same sort of underlying reason, you weren't sure if Columbo was coming back for a second season.
Yep. And
we've got this theme running through this episode, which we can chat about more. So, yeah, Matt brings the 2 Coast Guards down. We have some very, again, convoluted introductions where they're all introduced to each other.
I've got a note here. Half this episode so far has been people getting introduced to one another.
Yeah, people who are not required. Have you seen Spies Like Us?
No.
Good film. Getting back to the whole sort of 5.6, my type of trashy 80s movie.
Okay.
And it reminded me there's a scene in that where they're both playing doctors. They're both so Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd are spies pretending to be doctors in this scene in, I think it's Afghanistan. And they go to a medical tent and they're introduced to about 10 or 12 other doctors.
Right.
So each of them in turn stands in a line and it's doctor, 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 the whole way through. But it's funny because it's a comedy and it's Chevy Chase being ridiculous.
And he wasn't meant to be Columbo in that scene.
No, and this one reminded me of that, everyone introducing themselves when it's not required. Anyhow.
Yeah, we learn from the Coast Guard that the Commodore is one of the finest sailors in the world.
Yeah, but it is.
But he forgot to put his light on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not picked up. They could have picked lots of little things like that. They could have picked up on.
Yeah, they make a note here. The port side cleat was loose, but no one explains what that is, why it's relevant. It never comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
The Coast Guard then says that the ship or the yawl cleared the harbour at 1:23 a.m. and he was sure it was the Commodore. He was all alone.
Yes, and conditions were good for that.
Yeah, 14 mile an hour winds, nothing major.
From there we head to the boat's yard.
Yeah, Wayne Taylor's there with Columbo looking for Fred the foreman who'd been working the previous day.
Wayne tells Columbo about bringing the self-sailing vane to the Commodore the previous night.
Yep, and he confirms that the Commodore was upset, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Then we have some, huge amount of exposition as Columbo describes the hierarchy involving all the
scene
staff.
is awful.
Yeah.
You then end with Peter Falk corpsing, and they've just left it in.
Mm-hmm. It's a truly dreadful scene. They're shouting back and forth with the foreman up in a boat.
But they're repeating themselves. It's the same thing over and over again. Columbo's got it, and he shouts it back again.
Yeah, they think this is hilarious. I'm sure they were all tickled pink. All the actors.
It seems to me that the actors found it hilarious.
Well, I was going to mention that. I've got that as well. This episode to me is the actors themselves and the staff all thinking this is a great.
You would almost say it's self-indulgent.
You would say that. That's definitely what it feels like. They're all because without wanting to do any sort of trivia just now, I thought, or you would have expected before doing some research, that they've all thought this was a disaster. But no. Directors, writers, Magoon
signed off on it.
All thought brilliant episode. Even Dick Levinson, who didn't see it until 1985.
How come?
Didn't bother watching it. Don't know why. But
he was out that night.
Yeah. Thought, great. So, no shame. Absolutely.
Is there any contemporary feedback? Do we know anything about what the immediate reaction was?
Perhaps some of our listeners could...
put aside their 2015 lens. Mm-hmm. Tell us if you're aware or if you remember what was the immediate reaction.
Yeah.
We're out on a boat again.
Swanny's boat.
Swanny Swanson.
Even the name annoys me.
Yeah. He's out on a boat and he tells Columbo that the Commodore had been buying supplies, but they don't explain anything.
Yeah. He also tells him that the Commodore had been effectively looking after him since the age of 14 when his parents died.
Yes, his nephew.
Yes. He's been giving him a stipend.
Yeah, and then we get this bizarrely extended description of inheritance law in California where you learn that Swanny gets something from the will. Charles isn't in it, but Joanna is, and as the husband, he would therefore be.
They mentioned community property. It's a community property state.
Yep.
So effectively they share the inheritance.
It's different from that in Scotland. If you inherit something in Scotland, it's not matrimonial property. Unless you then apply it to a matrimonial purpose.
Okay.
Just a bit of trivia.
Good to know. Don't tell the wife.
Well, if you inherit, you need to keep it clearly separate, otherwise it will become matrimonial property through use.
Swanny then shows Columbo a large boat, or a yacht, or whatever it's called, that the Commodore gave to Joanna and Clay as a wedding present. And Columbo gets on and is suitably impressed by it.
Yeah, he seems to have forgotten all about his fear of boats from Dead Weight.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Folk might say that was the choppy seas. He's not in choppy seas here.
True. There he finds...
But even then, troubled waters, he took medicine straight away. Because he was out in the water. Yeah.
So on this boat, he finds a young girl meditating.
As you do.
And he immediately disturbs her.
It's very rude.
Yeah, and then has a go himself with great difficulty. Again, I imagine they're thinking, oh, this will be hilarious. Columbo sitting down there and trying to squeeze his leg up. No, it wasn't hilarious.
He doesn't even try it. He just says he can't do it.
Yeah. There's two things here. She's meditating, so you either leave her and wait until she's finished, or you say, excuse me, some questions. You don't sidle up to her and...
Creepy.
Yeah. And she was bizarre the whole way through as well.
Well,
She
you
talked like
get-
a doped up android.
You get this, what's clearly meant to be a dramatic twist where she reveals that she's a naval architect and marine engineer.
Female.
She's pretty and smart.
Yeah.
Oh, does not compute.
Yeah. So, yeah. But then,
A bit weird.
But then,
There's more yelling in this scene though.
there's lots of yelling.
Charles arrives and yells.
Yes, that's a clip from the top of the podcast here where he's annoyed at Swanny bringing him down, calls him an idiot.
But then he yells up to Columbo.
He does, and then Columbo yells back down to them, and they have this conversation, and the girl's trying to meditate. I mean,
Then he has what I've noted as a creepy cheerio to Lisa.
he does. Good luck her.
He's sitting, no, but he goes right in her face. He speaks from about an inch away.
And touches her arm as well.
Yeah, it's like...
Invades
whoa,
her privacy,
whoa,
her body
touch,
space. Yeah.
Touch her. Let's touch her.
Yeah.
Weird. And I don't think that's normal for Columbo. I don't think that's... I mean, he's done some things that we've questioned in the past, but I don't think this touchy-feely thing is really normal.
Yeah. Anyway, Clay asks him to go downstairs. And,
Yes.
And they do. And he then tells him that there's been a development. He puts him on the phone to the Coast Guard, who's got some information for him. And the information is that they found blood on a boom or a pole, which therefore suggests that he lost control of the boom, it struck him, and he then fell into the sea.
I've got a note here that Columbo is unusually close to Charles in this scene.
It's just like the car. It's this sort of physical comedy they're trying to do here, and it doesn't work. So he takes the phone from Charles, who's sitting down, and then there's this whole sort of, I don't know, is it a sort of Marx Brothers or some sort of...
It's more like Chuckle Brothers.
Chuckle Brothers, yeah, in the UK. Look up those idiots. And yeah, they sit down, and he sort of gets his the telephone cord wrapped around him, and he squashed right up beside him, and it's just horrible. Sorry, I can't help it. This episode is this is what we're doing.
We skip onto a boat, and I've almost made a regular type of note here.
Okay.
Charles demonstrates what's believed to have happened. They look at the booms and the self-steering vane. Oh, there's a nut missing. Columbo climbs out to the outside of the boat, which is completely out of character for someone who's scared of the sea.
Yeah, doing it again. He's got to get involved. He's got to jump over there. There's no need for
There's no need for him to jump over. He could have lifted it back from the inside.
Yeah.
And then I've noted Charles has a theory. Of course he does, but that doesn't fit because that's what you would say in a normal episode.
Okay, so what is his explanation?
He was trying to fix the vein, perhaps, and then as he turned around, he got hit in the back.
Yeah, smaller boom or something like that.
That's the side that the blood mark was on. And,
From there, we go back to the Clay
It's an
home.
unusual cut because they go from being on this boat to Charles answering the phone at home.
Yeah, the direction of this is terrible. There's lots of these sort of cuts, and it's very jarring, and scenes end.
It takes you out of it.
It does.
Which is probably a good thing in some way.
So, the Clay home. He answers the phone, and it's bad news. He tells Joanne, who walks into the scene with a drink as per,
She's drinking again, yeah.
that the body's been found of her father, and he's got to go down and ID it.
Yeah. Charles says he's going, and he makes it clear why. I think we've got a clip of that.
Got a clip, yeah.
They found your father.
Have they?
Columbo wants one of us to identify the body. He's dead.
Daddy? Daddy?
I'd better go.
Please!
I have to, Joanna. Now, don't drink. Do you remember this? Do you remember this? My anniversary gift? Look at it.
Our brooch? Mm-hmm. Where did you find it?
I picked it up.
I can't remember.
No, I know you can't remember. Now, don't drink. Don't drink!
I like that scene, or the performance between both of those characters. Like I say, you could perhaps think she's overdoing it, but I've got to look for some positive in this episode.
She does overdo it in the episode. This scene's okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So again, what we're led to believe here, I assume, is that he is covering up for her.
Yeah.
We next go to the morgue, where Clay is, or has identified.
Yeah. Well, here's a sympathetic point of view. The fact they've examined the body and found no water in the lungs confirms it's a murder.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe up to this point, Columbo's thought, well, they don't need me, I'm homicide, it's clearly an accident.
So I'll just mess around.
He's just basically there because he's been told to be there. He's not giving it his full attention. He's acting out of character because he's not interested.
Okay, so I shall irritate the
family
of the deceased to amuse myself.
He's maybe got a sociopathic edge there.
Yeah, if that is, that's a plausible reason, but it doesn't. You said, being sympathetic, it doesn't make it any less annoying.
No, I'm just trying to find out some way that would make it fit.
Yeah,
that's all.
Fair enough. So Columbo shows Clay a broken watch chain, and Clay states he wouldn't know where the watch is. How would he?
Of course.
And Columbo says, well, doesn't make any difference. It won't help him find the murderer. And it was murder, because the doctors can confirm that he was dead before he went into the water with the whole lung situation. Clay tries to offer an explanation.
Yeah, couldn't have been in the boat. But this is where you get that thing you mentioned earlier. Columbo says, well, that's probably why you asked the guard at the time, when you've got a perfectly good watch of your own.
Yes. Clay states his innocence. I think he understands what Columbo's getting at. And all of the parties, I think Mac's there with Kramer and Columbo, and they all leave. And this is the one bit I did sort of like. And if it was a one-off in an episode, it would have been fine. They're walking and they go to they go the wrong way, go up to a dead end. It's not an exit, and they have to sort of turn and go. And in a normal episode, where that was one of the little small comic reliefs, it would have been a nice little touch. And this, it's just confused and it's just overshadowed.
Columbo doesn't just walk out at this point.
No, well, this is dreadful as well. Columbo then he does a very weird run and jump up a set of stairs, and so he's above, as if he's preaching down to Clay.
Yeah, it's like it's meant to be symbolic of something, but I don't know what.
Yeah. And he, as you say, he states that he thinks that the talking to the guard was to create an alibi.
Yeah.
And Mac jumps in actually to finish his sentence. I don't know if you remember. Columbo starts something and Mac finishes it. Horrible. And then they all sort of leave together at this point. The cops all turn around and walk away. And Vaughn Clay is just left standing there going, what was all that about? Yeah. And I agree. You'd be thinking, what actually just happened there?
Who knows?
Back to the marina.
Talking to what I presume was one of the Coast Guards. I can't even remember who's who anymore.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely anyone swam out to the island.
Yeah. Columbo's lying on the jetty.
Well, as you do.
Why are you lying down?
It's his thinking position.
And he's unwrapped, he's got a wrapped cigar in his mouth. And then he's trying to figure out, the island and the mainland and all this sort of stuff. And the Coast Guard is about to explain the setup. But Mac thinks he's better placed to do this.
Which is absurd.
That is why, I say, Mac, be quiet. There's a Coast Guard here. He'll tell us the lie of the land.
Not only a Coast Guard, but a Coast Guard who's been working here for many, many years.
The Coast Guard tells him that it would be possible to swim from the Commodore's house to the mainland, but it would be unlikely.
Yeah.
Kramer then arrives. He tells Columbo to put away the cigar. This is a running comedy nonsense.
Yeah, you normally like these running things.
You're overdoing it.
That's what I said last week.
But it wasn't. Yeah, well, it wasn't compared. Maybe I knew what was coming up, so last week I was thinking, no, that's not overdoing it. You'll see what overdoing it is.
Maybe.
Next week. And Kramer tells him that there were stencils and paint.
Black marine paint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where was this? This was in the...
He'd bought them from the store, hadn't he? And then, conveniently, a diver shows up.
Yeah, he bobs up and...
Just when you need a diver.
Mm-hmm. Columbo asks him...
It's like he's sitting at the diver symbol.
Yep. He says he asks him how long the air in his tank lasts. He tells him 45 minutes. And he confirms that he is free that evening.
Yeah, it appears what happens here is Columbo arranges for this guy to show up without telling him why he's showing up or what for or who he is or anything.
Yeah, you're right.
We skip very quickly forward to that evening.
Back to the marina.
The diver's there and he sends him to the island and times it.
Yeah.
The plan works. That was great.
Yeah. And we see Clay again. We see a shot of him watching this, so he knows what's been happening here.
Yeah.
So you're led to believe, I think, Clay would be suspicious, or Clay would be getting worried.
Yeah.
Because he has made this journey, this swim.
Yeah, so you would know that Columbo's on to him. The next scene is back at the scene of the murder.
The Commodore's house. And Mac and Kramer are excited, not for the last time in this episode, and they explain that they found the watch and some lipstick under a table or something in the Commodore's house.
Yeah, the watches stopped at 12:32 on Saturday 31st.
12:42 was it?
Well, I thought that 32 right
No,
now. But it could be
42.
42.
Yes, and he uses the eyepiece from the telescope to see this, and they pick up a little lamp.
But he
and it's
doesn't
upside
get
down.
it himself. He sends someone to unscrew it from the...
Go get that, and he holds a lamp upside down as well.
And he makes Kramer hold that.
Yeah.
After a couple of seconds of Columbo doing it, he can't be bothered anymore. And not only that, but Kramer stays there holding it when they're not using it anymore.
And he doesn't
Like
even... He
imbecile.
decides... Yeah.
Like he can't put it down without permission.
He's an older guy, perhaps not got the best eyesight around. He doesn't say to maybe Mac, do you know what, Mac, can you look at that and tell me what that is? He goes to this whole rigmarole of getting telescope parts and lamps to look at the watch.
And then they've got these belaying pins, and Mac goes to touch them, and Columbo yells.
He shouts at him, doesn't he?
It was good to touch the one that's no dust.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a little thing as well. He says, dust, dust, dust.
I think they
No
used
dust.
that in Little Britain, didn't they? Dust. Everybody dust.
So rather than just saying, that one's got no dust on it, he just threw this whole piece of drama.
Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah. So they all seem very pleased with themselves. They're sure the Commodore was killed there, and that Clay
It's all a bit
sailed the
smug,
Gaul.
isn't it? They're all kind of
Very,
smug.
very conceited and very sort of self-congratulatory.
It's almost like the big city cops have come down to this little marina village, and they're going to show them how it's done.
Yeah. We go back to the Clay home. Lots of cop cars are outside as Columbo arrives. And what do we discover?
Well, there's a heavy police presence, and we find out that Charles is dead.
Yes. Ha! Put that in your cigar and smoke it, Columbo. You thought you had this case wrapped up.
This is a critical twist.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Clay is missing, and no one really knows where she is.
Yeah, the body was found by the housekeeper, who until that point had been on holiday for 2 weeks.
Conveniently.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that one before.
Yeah. Columbo's unhappy that things aren't as straightforward as what he had thought and hoped, and Kramer says that Clay could still have done it and been killed by an accomplice, but Columbo doesn't seem convinced by
Yeah,
that.
he's already solved this crime once, and he's going to solve it again.
Yeah. This time he's going to get it right. And he's messing about, I think, with cigars again, isn't he? And this lining them up.
Probably.
Bits and bobs, playing with those. Now, we go to Kittering's office. Kittering, again, is the sort of family lawyer.
Yes.
Or lawyer of Swanson. Otis.
Yeah. They're going to check out his alibi.
But sorry, we missed a point. Mac found in the previous scene, he found remains of letters and things like that in the fireplace.
Right.
Because he brings his letter to Kittering, who looks at it, the charred remains with a magnifying glass, and says it looks like a draft of a letter that Otis was writing to a fiberglass company who were, in negotiations to buy his business.
Yes, he was selling the business.
Yep.
And he was disappearing.
Now,
do we hear that in this scene, or is that later on we get that? Doesn't really matter.
no. And then Kittering suggests quite nicely that perhaps Joanne is worth investigating. He sort of points the finger at her now.
As the primary heir, but then this is to make us think, maybe he did it. He's pointing somebody else out.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's a red herring. We're meant to think, he's guilty of something here himself.
And he's got a very shaky alibi.
It's very shaky. It's a great one.
Shall we hear it?
Let's go.
Has Joanna, Mrs. Clay, seen this?
We haven't even found her yet.
Well, it's nothing to do with me. I mean, not her lawyer. I was always his lawyer. But I feel a certain amount of responsibility for the family, and I was just thinking that perhaps you might be imagining that Joanna might be involved in something or other. Of course, you've heard about her temper, drinking, and rows with her husband.
No, sir. The only thing that I've heard is now that her father is dead, she's going to inherit all the money.
Well, of course. I mean, she's the primary heir. She's the heiress to the whole fortune. The nephew gets very little, and the rest are just token gifts.
Mr. Kittering, forgive me for asking you this, but where were you the night the Commodore was killed?
Oh, poor old Otis. Where was I? Oh, I think I was in a motel.
In a motel, sir.
Yes, I'm sure I was. Nice little motel. I could recommend it.
Where was it, sir?
Oh, sounds odd, but I couldn't quite tell you. I could find it, I think. It's somewhere near that new restaurant they talk about, the captain's quarters.
Any witnesses, sir?
There was a young lady.
Her name, sir?
Shall we say we weren't formally introduced? Ships that pass in the night and that sort of thing. Not that many ships pass in my nights anymore, I regret to say.
I'm not sure why he regrets it and why not too many ships passing his night, because he's obviously paying for a teenage hooker.
Or something along those lines, but I think he's regretting that he's not as active as in his youth.
Yeah, but you can obviously get it whenever he pulls out his wallet anyway.
Well, maybe that's not quite as emotionally satisfying for him.
He doesn't seem to care.
Well,
Dirty
he
old
could be
man.
putting a brave face on it.
Putting a delighted face on it by the looks of it. I like that little scene. It was good.
He's good. He's a good actor. We've said that previously.
Mm-hmm. Just at the end of this scene, we see Kramer arrive to
They
tell...
found Mrs. Clay.
She's at the yacht club.
Woo!
And as they leave, we see Kittering.
Listening a phone call.
And you're meant to think, what's going on here? He's
Well,
definitely...
the whole point of that scene is to make him look suspicious.
Yeah.
Shady.
Mm-hmm. So we go to the yacht club and Joanna's drunk and still drinking at the piano as Swanny plays some ragtime music.
Yep. Man of many talents.
Yep. Columbo joins him and sits down at the piano stool.
Oh, this is a terrible moment.
Horrible scene. The music stops as she admits that she knows that her husband has been murdered. And I can't fathom, how would she know? I mean, I think she says, you're homicide, but he's there to investigate her father's murder anyway, so how would she know that Clay has been murdered?
It's a strange one.
I've never really discussed it any further.
No, I don't get it. It's a weird leap.
Yeah.
But then she is drunk, so she maybe just made a random connection that just happened to be right.
And Swanny appears not to know about the death of Clay either.
No, of course he doesn't.
Then she gets up and is this really weird? She's sort of walking and then she's walking towards drunk camera, and it could have been done quite nicely. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but Columbo, she sits down and there's one point in this scene as well, if you watch it again, where Columbo sort of hides and he ducks down behind something and he stands back up and it's just infuriating.
Yeah. They question her about her alibi on the night of her father's death, and we've got a clip about that.
Now, please, just try to recall how you got home that night.
A girlfriend who lives on the island called me the next day. She and her husband told me. They found me sound asleep on one of their patio chairs at 4 a.m. Apparently, they were kind enough to take me home, put me to bed. Isn't that a pretty story, Lieutenant? My husband and my father are both dead, and I don't know what happened. No.
Mrs. Clay, where have you been?
I don't know where I've been for years.
I like the music.
Yeah. Best part of the show.
It's up there anyway. It's a reasonable question from Columbo for once here.
Mm-hmm. We go to the guardhouse at the marina, or at Clay's house.
Yeah.
No, the Commodore's...
They're down at the dock at this point.
No, it's the guard, because it's the same guardhouse that he checked his alibi with.
Yeah. So it's that, it's out on the island.
Yeah. And Columbo's timing something. It wasn't clear what it was at first, but I think now, I'm not giving it too much time here, I'm not trying to overthink this, but his timing, he left the guard at 12:46 or 12:45, and the watch was broken at 12:42 apparently. So he's seeing if he can get from his own house, I think, to
the
boathouse, and back in that 4 minutes, something like that. But Columbo says he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he's ruling out Clay as the killer.
Yeah. And then he does that weird thing again. After chatting to the guard, he then sort of hammers it and speeds through and screeches to a halt for no reason. He's stopped his timing because he's been chatting for a while. So, it's just...
Yeah, well, Mac's got no ideas here either. And Columbo then says something that annoyed me.
Yep, which is...
Wouldn't it be nice to take one of these boats and go sailing somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
A man who we've seen established in canon as being averse to travelling by sea.
Yeah, he talks some about a gobbledygook in this episode.
It's like they've just ignored everything that's come before. It's like a standalone special of some kind.
Yeah. He then notices a boat called the Molly J, and
he's got an epiphany.
He dramatically swings his arm and points at it. He says, "That's it."
It's the same point he did with Clay earlier on in the episode.
Tosh.
Oh, but we're coming to a Poirot-style finale.
Well, certainly an Agatha Christie one anyway, yeah.
The suspects are gathered in a room.
Yeah, they're all invited.
The doors are locked.
Yeah. Well, not all of them initially.
And the gas is released.
Yeah, Lisa... I wish. Lisa's there. The rest of them are all there. Kramer is offering around donuts.
Why?
I don't know why. He then asks Joanne, or Columbo asks Joanne to look through the telescope to an approaching boat, and she sees a figure that she thinks is her daddy. Why would you cause this mental anguish and stress to someone?
He says he had to establish that you could make that mistake. Well, the fact that she could make the mistake doesn't mean that the Coast Guard could make the mistake from a different angle in a different place.
She's an emotionally disturbed woman who has lost her father and her husband in a matter of a day or so.
She becomes hysterical.
She does. But then we see that it's not, in fact, her daddy.
It's her cousin.
It's her cousin, as Swanny walks through the door whistling some sort of nonsense,
pretending to be the
captain and a jaunty, and then she starts laughing. She's on the verge of a nervous breakdown here, and rightly.
She's not coping.
She's an alcoholic who's lost her two most important people in her life, and Columbo's messing about with donuts and clocks and watches and all that sort of stuff.
Seethe.
Real seethe.
Mac and Kramer and Columbo are going to go through the scenario now that everybody's here.
Yes. Mac starts to explain what they know, their sort of setup. And twice, Columbo very rudely tells him basically to shut up. They all know what they know so far.
Yeah, but I think that's for effect. He doesn't want them to get too comfortable or too settled.
So do you think when Mac is about to reveal the list of suspects that he was really about to reveal that, or was that part of a plan?
I don't know if Mac knows what the plan is.
No.
I think Mac's got his little idea, but Columbo's got a different one, and he's going to run through his scenario.
Yeah.
Kramer gets involved.
Well, yeah, okay. Okay, what does Kramer do?
I can't even remember exactly what he does. He just kind of chucks his tuppence worth in.
Well, we've got a wee clip in a second. But what's happening here is that Columbo says he doesn't think that Clay killed anyone. He thinks that he was covering for Joanne because he thought she did it.
Yes.
He has no particular love, emotional, physical love for her, but he was doing it because he wanted to ensure that she could still inherit and he would get the share.
His share, yes.
But during this explanation, Columbo weirdly sort of interrupts and tells Kittering who Mac and Kramer are.
Yes.
He says, Mac's just new, and Kramer, he's been... And Kittering's like, yeah, very good, well done.
It's a weird one.
Joanne then realises that Clay suspected her because of the brooch.
Yes, she puts like two and two together, and that was why he was saying that to her.
Yes, but then he quickly realised it wasn't her, and it was somebody else. And then we've got Mac and Kramer, as you say, they both get involved and start shouting out motives. We've got a clip of this.
Yeah, let's hear this.
If Mrs. Clay were convicted of killing her father, could she still inherit from him?
Oh, of course not. No way. And what's more, poor old Charlie wouldn't be able to get his hands on any of the stuff.
That's where we met, right?
Yeah, that's what we meant, Sergeant.
I didn't kill Daddy.
The young fella's doing homicide training.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy's been around for a while.
Good for him.
But your husband might have thought you did.
The brooch. He gave it back to me the next day, but he didn't tell me where it came from.
Oh. I'll bet it was right here.
He asked me such strange questions.
And you gave him all the wrong answers, too, right?
Now, your husband must have begun to realize that he'd made an awful mistake.
Now, if that's the case, that's when your husband began to realize who really did kill your father.
No, that's why he had to be killed.
That's right, because he started asking somebody questions.
Somebody? Who are you talking about?
Are you kidding? A lot of people would have been very upset if they suddenly found out what the Commodore was up to.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Well, everybody knows that the Commodore had been acting a little funny lately.
Like maybe the way he built that little yawl to suddenly sail away on for good.
Right, but the Commodore had a lot of
unfinished business.
Yeah, like painting.
Right. And the will.
And the will.
And the boatyards.
The boatyards.
And a whole lot of
other things.
All right, fellas. Give me a minute here, would you?
I think I'm doing a lot of shouting in this episode, but it's only reflecting the aggression and the shoutiness of this Columbo episode.
I don't really understand what just happened.
No, neither do I. You're watching it going, what are you doing? Stop shouting over each other. And
it's like some kind of Amdram thing.
Mm-hmm. Horrible.
It's like some kind of Amdram thing. I don't even mean like the cast. I mean the characters.
Yeah.
The two of them are acting like something they're putting on in a local play.
And it would be acceptable from Mac because we've not seen him before, so maybe that's how he is.
Yeah.
But you're seeing somebody like, obviously Columbo, but and Kramer, who hardly says a word. All of a sudden,
he wants to put his oar in, doesn't he?
Yeah. Very good. So Columbo then interrupts, as we heard, and he asks for the stencils that were purchased to be brought out, and he shows what they have come up with.
Yeah, they thought it said sales.
Yes, there's this big reveal, and it looks like Lisa, and then he removes his coat, which reveals it's Lisa S.
But this is the other one. It's like, look at this one that was clearly a period, and they're like, we didn't know what this was. We thought it was a space. It's got a dot at the bottom of it.
Yes, it's not an apostrophe.
Clearly.
No. So yeah, that was... Now Lisa's there. She confirms like a catatonic
just before
hippie.
That, before that, there's a weird double cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are they doing? Was that an advert? I didn't see an advert.
Gave up on it, who knows. But let's see, Lisa confirms. They loved each other. As Swanny laughs away inanely. He's laughing at this the whole time.
I think he's hysterical. If I've noted your Swanny acting hysterical, I think he's lost it as well at this point.
Yeah. She says that she would only apparently marry Otis, the Commodore, if he left her nothing in his will. Much like...
That was in... what was the episode called?
Double Shock.
Was it Double Shock?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it was, with the Catwoman.
Yes, that's her. Julie Newmar.
That's her. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the hippie way.
Yeah. So he was to leave... His will now means that he's going to leave everything to charity, minus a very small... or a trust for Joanne.
But the lawyer didn't mention that, so I assume that hasn't been done.
Yeah. Columbo brings everyone to order. They're all chatting and shouting, and he tries to regain control here. He says that Lisa was the only person in the room without motive to kill either of them.
Yeah, and I thought, is he going to turn around? Did she do it?
He then, in a very odd fashion, he produces the Commodore's pocket watch like an endangered bird or something that's about.
Yeah,
he holds
you
it
can't
to
see
his
it.
chest.
Yeah,
he brings it up. I thought it was a mouse. He brings this up, and what does he do?
He goes around every one of them. He holds it up to the air and goes, "The Commodore's watch, the Commodore's watch." I mean, it's like going to mass, and it's like body of Christ, body of Christ.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
I don't understand what he's doing.
And what's he's...
This is the gotcha.
Yeah, this is there's no gotcha here. And they all they've got different responses, like very good or
First
so
one goes tisn't.
We'll get to that. The other sort of give some sort of non-committal. Yeah,
big
shrug.
deal.
Big deal. Yeah.
Daddy.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible.
Also, the fact that he's taken a piece of critical evidence and had it repaired.
Yeah, he says so. He tells him that he's got the watch fixed, and but then that wouldn't even make sense, would it? Because he says he's got the watch fixed. So why would he say it isn't? Because he thought it was damaged. Okay.
Yeah.
But Columbo just said, "Yeah, but I've got it fixed."
Yeah.
So is the watch? It could be the watch. Am I missing something here?
I don't know if he says he got it fixed until after he's done this.
Yeah, I think that was it.
This is his big reveal.
Okay. So Columbo explains that he has had the watch fixed, and this proves something. We've got his explanation of this supposed proof.
Yeah.
When I went to you, Mrs. Clay, and I said, the Commodore's watch, you said, Daddy's watch. And when I said to you, Mr. Kittering, the Commodore's watch, what'd you say?
I think I said, big deal.
Big deal. And I said to you, Mr. Taylor, Commodore's watch. You said so.
What?
When I said to you, Swanny, the Commodore's watch, he said, "'Tisn't." Which means it isn't. No, it is not the Commodore's watch. Because you were the only one who knew that the Commodore's watch was smashed, because you smashed it at the scene of the crime.
That's absolute garbage. It really is. Okay, where do we start with that? I love and hate. It's now actually so bad that it's funny that he has to give an explanation to "'tisn't" what it actually means.
It isn't.
It isn't. It is not.
But that's not clear enough yet. It is not.
A lot of nonsense. It proves nothing. Let's bring out the no proof klaxon here, please.
Will you give me proof, Lieutenant? Where is your proof, Lieutenant?
Yeah, what is he? It doesn't even get... Normally in a Columbo episode as well, even with no proof at all, you have an immediate confession. He says, okay, the game's up. Okay, he doesn't even get that there. So he leaves it... He's going to go to court and tell the prosecutors or tell the jury that, yeah, he said, "'Tisn't... Convict him. Turn on the electric chair. Come on, warm it up." What a lot of garbage.
It's not compelling, is it?
It's dreadful. "'Tisn't." What does that try and prove? That's nothing. That's going nowhere.
He's been able to show motive and opportunity for Swanny.
Yeah, so what? There are plenty of motive and opportunity. This isn't going anywhere. He's absolutely... I'm telling you, he's getting demoted, Columbo, after this one. He's getting pulled in by... He's not a legend. He's no legend anymore. And after this episode, he'll have to regain their...
We've got a little bit after this conclusion, though, where we get a little bit of more nonsense with the police crack squad.
Yeah.
First of all, Mac's jacket is just like Columbo's.
And that's why he's called Mac. It's not because he's Scotch or Irish.
That's true. So that's where I also got that idea. Maybe they were trying to see could he carry the show.
Well, maybe we'll talk about the actor who played Mac, and there's a similarity there. But yeah,
Columbo's smoking again.
Yes.
Kramer says to him, "Thought you were going to quit."
He says, "Not yet. Not yet."
Was that a reference to Falk leaving the show?
Yeah.
Actually, the note I've got is, would be a great line if there were rumours of the show ending.
Yes. Just let's finish it off. So he gets in his rowing boat and he rows away into the sunset.
Whistling with a cigar in his mouth. How do you do that?
This old man, I don't know. We do it by overdubs, which there's quite a lot of in this episode, a lot of ADRs, which were quite apparent. And he's going to meet his wife. There was no there's very few sort of cliches or tropes in here.
Right.
There was no one more things or talk of relatives. This was the only one they threw in at the end about Mrs. Columbo.
Right. He's going to meet her over at the yacht club.
So there we have it.
Although, was the yacht club not at the same part of it?
Don't even try and work that
out. I noticed that people were frustrated with this episode. My notes at the end where I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's a new format, but I didn't think his behaviour was any worse than it had been in an Identity Crisis.
Oh, it's a lot worse.
In your opinion?
In my opinion, and
it's
lots of other people's.
In different ways. It's bad in different ways, but...
It's out with his character. We're not talking about bad behaviour, we're talking about different behaviour. Yeah. I don't care if he's badly behaved a lot of the time, it doesn't bother me. But I said before at the start, in sort of all seriousness, I don't understand why you would do this. It's like an ego thing.
Yeah.
It's Magoon's fault here.
I can do something different and folk will still like it.
Yeah, let's try this. Be a bit arty-farty and let's try and do, what do you call it?
Improv.
Yeah. Let's try and do some improvisation, and we'll try out new things. Yeah, do that in a theatre or do it in a new production. You've got a loyal fan base here.
If you've got 12 or 15 or 20 episodes in a season, though, that's fine. Chuck one in like that. You've only got the 6 episodes in this season.
It's not a type of show. The whole thing about this genre, and especially Columbo, is it's massively structured. There's no room for improvisation. You might get little tiny scenes where where they improvise perhaps bits and bobs, but you've just tried to do something new with the show. I don't know how they got away with this. Who gave it the okay? And Magoon, hunt yourself, son.
They could have done a better job hinting at the other suspects and the motive. I don't think they made it clear about the motive.
Yeah.
And there's no indication that Swanny was upset at any point until he was shown as the killer.
Yeah. You mentioned there at the end, and you're quite right. Peter Falk, at the end of season 5, was in the midst of negotiating new terms, and there was apparently uncertainty as to whether or not he would return for season 6. I think the general opinion is that he always was going to. It's just a case of negotiating the best deal. And rightly, he did return, and on a reported $300,000 per episode.
Not bad if you can get it.
I think he was the highest paid actor in American TV, therefore the world at the time with that. I think I worked that out. It's about $1.2 million per episode.
In today's money?
In today's money. Which...
you wouldn't turn your nose up at that?
No, you wouldn't. So, he got...
We don't get that much for the podcast.
No, but we're getting there. We've only got another 1.2 million to go.
To negotiate harder.
We've not done a lot of sort of trivia or other bits and bobs. Will I quickly run through it?
Yeah, run through it all. And then we'll do the end of season verdicts.
Yeah. We'll do the guest stars. Fortunately, most of them have already appeared and we've discussed before. So we've got Robert Vaughn from Troubled Waters. We discussed him in that episode. We've got John Dehner, who played the Commodore. We discussed him in Swan Song. Wilfrid Hyde-White played Kittering, who we discussed in Dagger of the Mind. We also have Bruce Kirby, who we've discussed before. He played George Kramer, Sergeant George Kramer. So the new guys. Fred Draper played Swanson. He died in 1999. He's not a new guy. He's been in lots of sort of Columbo episodes, little bit parts. He died in 1999, aged 76.
We should clear up that Swanny Swanson.
That's Swanny Swanson. Swan Boy Swanson.
Okay.
Swanny S. Swanson.
Swan Song.
He has worked in the past with Falk in A Woman Under the Influence, Husbands, and as I say, 6 episodes of Columbo. Next week is actually his last Columbo episode.
Okay.
So I'm glad this wasn't his farewell.
He did get a moment in the sun, though. He was the killer.
He did, yeah. Diane Baker played Joanna Clay. She was born in 1938. I know her most famously for playing the senator in Silence of the Lambs. It was her daughter that was kidnapped and held down the well by James Gum, Buffalo Bill.
Puts the lotion in the basket.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. She was also in The Cable Guy, Murder, She Wrote, Fantasy Island, Kojak, Mission Impossible, amongst lots of other things. 2 Golden Globe nominations and 3 Emmy nominations.
Not a bad haul.
It's okay. Okay, we go on to Dennis Duggan.
Your favourite?
I've only really saw him in this and, yeah, not much else, but I know that he's not highly regarded, both in terms of a lot of the Columbo community and Hollywood, I suppose, in general. I'll explain why. So he's born in 1946. He's an actor and more of a director these days. As an actor, he's been in the grown-up films, 1 and 2 with, what's his face? Adam Sandler.
Mm-hmm.
Big Daddy, Moonlighting, Hill Street Blues. I think he played Captain Freedom on that. He also starred in Richie Brockelman P.I. Now, you mentioned earlier on about perhaps they were trying to spin off or have Mac as a potential replacement or lead. Didn't happen in Columbo, but he appeared on the Rockford Files as Richie Brockelman P.I. as a guest star. He spun off onto his own TV show, Richie Brockelman P.I., which lasted for 6 episodes before being canned. So, not too successful.
Turned out he couldn't carry a show.
No, he couldn't carry a show. He's also been in, he's also directed Moonlighting, a new episode of Columbo with William Shatner, Butterflies and Shades of Grey. He directed Happy Gilmore, a number of episodes of NYPD Blue, the grown-up movies. But he has had 5 Razzie nominations with 2 wins. And the funny thing is that both the wins for Worst Director were in the same year. So he shared the honour or dishonour with himself for Jack and Jill and Just to Go With It.
He's done a lot of work with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
A lot of his films were critically panned but commercially successful.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently his films or movies have grossed over 1 billion, so that's why he's still in work. People will buy and watch anything, won't they?
Some people will.
Mm-hmm. And one other little piece of trivia, he was previously married to Joyce Van Patten.
She was in a previous episode.
She was in Negative Reaction. She played the nun who thought Columbo was a
Homeless man.
Homeless man, yeah. And she will also be very prominently featured in a forthcoming episode, An Old-Fashioned Murder. There we have it. A little bit of trivia. What else have we still to cover here? Yeah, Magoon wanted to try something new, and I think Falk sort of he trusted him and let him have his way. But as we've said, certainly my opinion, like I said at the start of the episode, want to hear from you. If you like this episode, if you love this episode, if it's your favourite episode,
we want to hear why.
Yeah, get in touch, tell us. Everyone's entitled to be wrong,
or right, or subjectively,
of course. So yeah, let us know if you like this episode. There must be someone out there. Some people like Dagger of the Mind, and I now feel more fondness for that in comparison to this tripe.
Other people's reflections help.
Mm-hmm. Apparently everyone involved was happy with it, and it could only lead me to believe that they were very. It was just an ego trip for them all. They all had a bit of fun and didn't really think
maybe
about it.
Maybe a bit harsh.
Don't think so. Listen, I'm in a bad mood tonight, and
you clearly are.
I'm not giving up.
Someone made you watch this again. That's what's happened.
Well, I suppose that's the other positive I'll have to take from this. I will never have to watch this again.
There you go. Unless this didn't record.
If this isn't recording, well, we're saying sorry to our listeners and
moving on.
We're moving on, yeah. Episode review.
Okay.
It's a weird, messy one. Motive. Well, for Swanny to collect the inheritance.
Yeah, by framing his cousin, he would become the primary beneficiary.
Yeah. Clues, because there's so many different sort of red herring clues here. I can't even be bothered if I miss any here, Ian. Tell me if you want. Body being found dead before it was drowned, before it was in the water. No dust on the pole. The watch being broke. Lipstick being found. I don't know. Anything else?
It's probably one or two other little things.
Yeah.
The stencils. But again, these aren't clues to the killing.
No.
All the time.
Yeah, a lot of the things aren't actually clues to... Even the will actually wasn't a clue to the killer, because the will being changed didn't help. And
it wasn't changed at all in the end.
No. So, that's that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nah, I've already commented on that. It was not strong.
Guff. Terrible. No gotcha at all. Laughed out of court.
You would think if you're going to do an episode that breaks from the usual format, at least finish strong.
Columbo will type up his report for his superior. He will look at it, he will laugh. He'll tell him, get yourself back out there. Get it sorted.
Some evidence.
Yeah. Don't bring this diarrhea again.
They have shown motive and opportunity though, so there's a chance of a conviction if there's more evidence to be found.
Yeah, if there's more evidence to be found, and if they don't mess about. Yeah. Don't have a lark on...
Maybe if they put someone who's a bit more professional out there.
Yeah.
Maybe the fellow from last week.
Maybe even Richie Brockelman would be more professional than this.
Who knows?
Do you know what, Ian? Yeah, I'm glad to see the back of this episode.
It's also the end of the season.
End of season. The frustrating thing is it's been bookended by 2 great episodes.
Yep.
Which means I'm looking forward more than ever to next week's, which is a personal favourite of mine, and I get a feeling I think it might be a favourite of yours. I hope so.
We'll see next week.
So what we do at the end of every season, we run through quickly well, you explain.
Yeah, it's slightly convoluted and it upsets some people, but most people seem to like it. On the basis that any confession is successfully withdrawn by a good solicitor or lawyer, and that diplomatic immunity is not in place in one case, we want to see if the evidence from the episodes stands up well enough for us to say that they would be convicted in court.
And as always happens, I don't take notes as I'm going about what I've said during the previous episode, so there's a good possibility I'm going to contradict myself.
Yeah.
Let's see. Although, in fairness, thinking quickly through, I'm not sure it's... Okay, let's go on.
First one up's Forgotten Lady.
He let her off with it anyway.
Yeah, but I'm going to say not guilty because there's a plausible alternative explanation for
suicide.
They didn't disprove the suicide enough.
Mm-hmm.
All they've done is that there's now 2 possibilities. There's not beyond a reasonable doubt that one rather than the other was the case.
Plus, I think in her condition, she won't be fit to stand trial.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So, not guilty.
Not guilty on that one.
Next.
Case of immunity.
Okay, this is an interesting one.
There is some circumstantial evidence, but I don't think it takes you beyond a reasonable doubt.
No, but we know for a fact because Columbo had to set him up in the very end because he admitted himself he couldn't prove it. So he had to do the whole elaborate setup in order to get a confession from him.
Also, I don't think America would allow the trial to take place if it was being disputed.
No.
because it's not in their interests internationally.
But we know that he is going to. He's not going to retract his confession. Either way,
yeah, this is a special case. Yeah,
special case because he's getting done in one country.
Oh,
or
Columbo's
another.
outwitted him, so Columbo has beaten him. But I don't think under our parameters he would get a conviction. But
in this case,
it doesn't matter too much. In this
doesn't
case.
matter. It's by default he's getting convicted one way or the other, but
Yeah.
not really because of. Well, he's outsmarted him.
Yeah.
But in terms of evidence, there's nothing there. But he will be.
But we do question Columbo's decision to ignore directions from the government.
Okay, so we'll give him that one.
Okay. Identity crisis.
Okay.
I think we might disagree on this one, because I think that they might have enough to get him.
I disagree. Yeah, I think what we discussed was that everything was to do with the fact that he knew that the Chinese had pulled out of the Olympic Games, and he could only have known that had he been in the office in the morning as opposed to the night before. That's all that proves. It only proves that he made the call in the morning, nothing else.
Yeah. You've also got photographs of him with the victim the day he died, and I would say that you don't have the motive established, so they would need to find a motive, but they might do that looking through his bank accounts and so on.
Could do, but once he admits that what they're involved in, it's very murky. It's all circumstantial.
Also, if they establish that he is Steinmetz, you've got evidence from the other folk involved as to what Steinmetz has said.
How are they going to establish he was Steinmetz? Remember, that all come down to him drawing
They drew him on the thing.
So they're not establishing that.
But they may well be able to establish that.
Based on what we know, we can't say what they might be able to establish, based on the fact that it was
I think the photo of him with them, I think they're going to get him. I think he's going to go down.
I don't. I think he says, yeah, of course I knew him. We're working together in the CIA. I didn't kill him. Because remember, the fact he's a CIA operative.
It's a cure-all, isn't it?
Well, there's lots of people, lots of government, lots of people who want him dead.
Yeah.
He's in a very dangerous position. So this is a great get out.
Plausible.
And I think he only admitted after this whole thing about the Chinese in the radio, I'm going with based on what we know, not guilty.
Okay. Matter of honour. There's not any proof. You've got all the gotcha showed you was the motive. It didn't show you the proof they did it.
It's because he froze. That was it. But he could freeze because he froze.
So we've got a motive, but we don't have proof that he committed the murder.
Nope.
So I'm going to say not guilty.
Not guilty.
In any event, it's not Columbo's problem because he doesn't live in Mexico. It's not his jurisdiction.
Yeah, he was only doing it as a favour.
Yeah, so he's fine. He doesn't need to worry about that one. He's not handing in a report on this one.
No.
Now you see him. I'm going with guilty.
Yes, I'm going with guilty.
The carbon rail, pretty damning.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity was proved as well with the lockpicking of the handcuffs.
Yep, and if they can establish that he was in fact the Nazi, that firms it up even more.
He is done.
Yeah, I would give him that one, yeah.
So we're giving Columbo so far 3.5 out of 4.
No.
It's better than we thought.
I'm giving him 1.5.
Well, you're letting him away with case of immunity.
I'm giving him half for that.
Okay, you're giving him Forgotten Lady?
No, I'm getting a conviction.
Oh, no, not guilty for Forgotten Lady. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yes, my mistake. I misread that. Yeah, well, I'm giving him, at this point,
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
And we don't care about Matter of Honour.
Yeah, and then we've got, is that it? Yeah,
We've got
this
one
week's?
more, we've got this week's. So, like we said earlier, you don't think there's any chance. I think possible.
Oh, there you go.
I think we've got motive and opportunity, which is 2/3 of the way there.
That's not enough.
It's tricky because we weren't really thinking on it when we went through this episode about the evidence against Swanny, so we're kind of retconning it slightly at the end.
It's all cases on this isn't nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm saying not guilty on this.
Okay. It wasn't as strong a season overall as 3 and 4 for me, but Now You See Him was a good one, and I know a lot of folk really liked Identity Crisis, so you can't completely write it off.
Yeah. I'm just disappointed that it finished on this sort of sour note.
Yeah.
But onwards and upwards, it will certainly in the existing run. It doesn't get any worse than this.
Yeah, I mean, we're only now, in terms of the number of episodes, I believe a couple of months away from ending the original run.
Yeah. And then what we're doing in the podcast is we're going to take a 10-year break, hiatus, and come back.
A 10-year break, is that it? Or at least a week. We'll do something in the week in between.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that's it. Yeah. What can you say?
It's 5 years down.
5 years down. I'm really looking forward to next week. Next week we have Fade Into Murder with a very, very familiar face, one I think you will enjoy.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. If
Yeah.
we can remind folk, if you've enjoyed the podcast, even if you didn't enjoy the Columbo episode, please, iTunes ratings, star ratings, reviews, all go very well for us. If you can do that, we've now got a Facebook page up and running. I know a lot of folk have found that. If you can share that with your friends who also like Columbo, that would be great. As usual, we're on Twitter, or you can engage with us on columbopodcast.com.
And thanks a lot to everyone who has engaged with us.
Absolutely.
And left us feedback, etc. We really do appreciate it, and it makes it all worthwhile knowing that we're sitting in here shouting about a TV episode from 1976 and wondering, wait a second, what we're doing, that there are lots of people listening to it and either agreeing or disagreeing with what we rabbit on about.
Yeah.
Makes it all worthwhile.
Particularly you with the rabbiting.
Oh, a lot of that this episode. Apologies.
We'll see everybody next week for a bit of a bounce back, we hope.
Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
You have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.